I never would have believed that a single phone call could change everything in my life, but that's exactly what happened. It was a cool, crisp autumn day in Chicago when I noticed my phone buzzing with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it ring, but something made me pick up. The voice on the other end was unmistakable, despite the many years that had passed. "Astrid, it's Freja," she said, her tone a strange mix of formality and something else I couldn't quite place. "Freja," I responded, trying to keep my voice steady, though my heart was already racing. "What's going on?" Freja, my estranged sister, was calling with some shocking news. Our grandmother had passed away. But it wasn't just the news that caught me off guard. It was the way Freja delivered it. Her voice had a sharp edge, as though she had more on her mind than just a simple announcement. "I just thought you should know," she said, her words laced with a hint of mockery. "I'm sure you're busy with your modest life." I could practically feel her smirking through the phone. Her comment stung, but I did my best not to show it. "Thanks for letting me know," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I'll make arrangements to come." It wasn't just her words that hurt, it was the flood of memories they brought back. Growing up, Freja was always the favorite. She had a way about her, a natural charm that seemed to win everyone over, especially our father. Meanwhile, no matter how hard I tried, my efforts were often overlooked. After what she had done, I hadn't spoken to Freja in years. She had taken Algot from me, and with that betrayal, I cut ties. Not just with her, but with most of the family. It wasn't only about losing Algot, it was the way it highlighted the imbalance I had always felt in our family. Algot had once been my fiancé. We had plans for a future together, a life we had carefully mapped out. But then Freja, with her magnetic pull, stepped in. Algot left me for her, and I was heartbroken. It wasn't just the end of a relationship, it was a deep betrayal that left lasting scars. Our family had always been a complicated one. My father, stern and unyielding, clearly favored Freja, who was more like him in temperament. My mother, while kind, was often caught in the middle. She did her best to support me, but it was clear that Freja had always been the apple of their eye. After the breakup, I had made the choice to leave that chapter of my life behind. I quit my job as a school administrator and focused on building a life with my husband, Folky. He was a tech executive, and he loved me for who I was, not for who I tried to be. We lived in a cozy suburban home, and while our life wasn't extravagant, it was filled with love. Our 6-year-old daughter, Emily, was the light of our world. She had a passion for drawing and even had a growing YouTube channel where she shared her artwork. Despite all the happiness I found in my personal life, Freja's call stirred up old wounds. The thought of returning to the family home for the funeral filled me with dread. It had been years since I'd set foot there, and the memories were a bittersweet mix. My grandmother had been the one person in the family who had always been kind and supportive of me, no matter what. Her death marked the end of an era. Now, with Freja dragging me back into the fold, it felt like I was being pulled into a world I had tried to leave behind. The next few days were spent preparing for the trip, but no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that Freja had more in mind than just announcing our grandmother's passing. When the day of the funeral finally arrived, I found myself standing in front of the old family house. It looked just as I remembered it, but somehow different, like it held the echoes of our childhood within its walls. Echoes of laughter, arguments, dreams, and disappointment. Inside, the house was heavy with both grief and nostalgia. I saw familiar faces, some clouded with sorrow, others filled with something less sincere. As I moved through the crowd, my eyes landed on Freja. She was surrounded by people, her presence commanding attention as always. She looked just as polished and composed as I remembered, her charm effortlessly pulling people into her orbit. Watching her, I felt a deep unease. Even after all these years, it felt like nothing had changed between us. We were still caught in the same old rivalry, still playing the same roles we had grown up with. During the funeral service, just as the eulogies were being given, Freja managed to catch me alone. "Astrid," she said, offering a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's been a while." "Yes, it has." I forced a smile in return, trying to keep my emotions in check. "How have you been?" "Oh, you know," she replied, her voice dripping with sweetness that didn't feel genuine. "Life's been interesting." I could hear the subtle challenge in her words, the old competition between us lingering just beneath the surface. As I stood there looking at her, I realized that this wasn't just a funeral. It was a confrontation with the past, with all the betrayals and choices that had shaped both of our lives. Little did I know, this encounter would lead to revelations that would shake everything I thought I knew about Freja and about our family. The tension in the days leading up to the funeral had been unbearable, and now it was coming to a head. I tried to focus on my own family, Folky, Emily, and our quiet, steady life, but it was hard to ignore the pull of the reunion with Freja. The echoes of the past seemed louder than ever. On the day of the funeral, the house felt alive with those memories, as if the walls themselves were watching over us, guarding all the secrets from our past. As I entered the living room, I felt Freja's gaze on me again. She approached me, her polished exterior intact, but this time her smile seemed more genuine, though still edged with something I couldn't quite trust. "I've been meaning to catch up," she said, her voice filled with curiosity. "It's been so long since we've really talked." "Yes, it has," I responded, struggling to keep my emotions in check. I watched Freja with a mix of curiosity and frustration. Beneath her confident exterior, I knew there was a maze of deceit and manipulation. It was hard not to notice how she casually mentioned Algot, my former fiancé, and now her ex-husband. The way she dropped his name into conversation, acting as if their failed marriage didn't bother her, felt like she was reopening old wounds. Algot had once been my entire world. We had been planning a life together until Freja, with her usual charm and slyness, swooped in and took him away. The betrayal shattered me, leaving me broken and unsure of who I could trust. And now, seeing Freja flaunt her life as though none of it mattered made all that pain rise to the surface again. As the evening wore on, I knew I couldn't just let these feelings fester anymore. I needed to confront her, to finally get some closure. As the crowd of mourners began to thin out, I pulled Freja aside, finding a quiet corner in the house. "Freja, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tension I felt. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Of course. What's on your mind?" "I need to understand why," I said, feeling my heart race as I struggled to control my emotions. "Why did you take Algot from me? What made you think it was okay to just steal him away like that?" Her expression shifted from a fake cheerfulness to something colder, more calculating. "Astrid, it wasn't about taking anything. Algot and I had our own connection. You just didn't see it. You manipulated him." I shot back, my voice shaking with anger. "You knew how much I loved him." Freja shrugged, completely unfazed by my rising emotions. "Algot made his own choices. You need to let it go, Astrid. Life moves on." Her dismissive attitude was infuriating. "You've never understood, have you?" I asked, feeling the old hurt bubble up. "It wasn't just about Algot. It was about how you always seemed to get everything handed to you while I had to struggle for every little thing." Freja's face hardened. "Don't blame me for your problems. We all have our battles. Maybe if you had been more assertive, things would have turned out differently for you." Her words cut deep, hitting all the old insecurities I'd tried so hard to bury. I wanted to lash out, but I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay composed. "This isn't just about Algot," I said, my voice quieter but still strong. "It's about our family, the way everything was always stacked against me." Before she could respond, we were interrupted by the arrival of some distant relatives, forcing me to step away from the confrontation. The conversation was left unresolved, and the rest of the evening passed in a blur of faces and condolences. But my mind was stuck in the past, replaying everything that had been said and everything that hadn't. The next day, as the funeral wrapped up, I felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. Our family dynamics were as tangled as ever, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover. Freja's perfect image was beginning to crack, and I was determined to get to the bottom of it. Leaving the funeral, I felt heavy with the weight of all that had been left unsaid, but I also had a renewed sense of purpose. The confrontation with Freja had opened a door to deeper truths, and I wasn't going to let it close without finding out everything. I was ready to face the lies and deceptions that had shaped our lives, no matter what it revealed. In the days following the funeral, an uneasy calm settled over me. I kept replaying my conversation with Freja, searching for clarity in the mess of emotions. It was obvious that the issues in our family were far from resolved. My mother had apologized, but it wasn't enough to fix the rift that had been growing for years. During this time, Folky and Emily became my anchor. They could sense the storm inside me but offered comfort instead of questions. Emily, with her innocent curiosity, threw herself into her YouTube channel, sharing her latest drawings with the world. Her joy was a much-needed light in all the darkness I felt. But it didn't take long before things escalated again. Freja, ever the drama queen, took to social media to throw subtle jabs at me. Her posts, dripping with sarcasm, painted her life as a picture of success while implying that mine was boring and insignificant. It was infuriating to watch her try to diminish my happiness in such a public way. That's when I realized we had a weapon of our own, Emily's YouTube channel. One evening, after seeing another one of Freja's cruel posts, Emily and I decided it was time to push back. We made a video together, using her platform to subtly counter Freja's lies. The video focused on the positives in our life, showcasing Emily's artwork and the love in our home. But underneath it all, there were clear references to the falsehoods Freja had been spreading. The video, innocent on the surface, quickly gained traction. Soon, people began commenting, and it wasn't long before Freja's posts and our video became part of a larger conversation. The cracks in Freja's perfect image were beginning to show. People were starting to see her for who she really was, a woman hiding behind a mask of success and charm, concealing a lifetime of manipulation. As the video went viral, the backlash against Freja was swift. Comments flooded in, pointing out the inconsistencies in her story, questioning her integrity. The spotlight she had craved for so long was now shining on her flaws. Meanwhile, Freja's personal life was starting to fall apart as well. Algot, already struggling with the fallout from our confrontation, made a serious mistake at work. The pressure was too much for him, and he was fired from his job as a software engineer. The professional and personal strain took its toll, and soon after, Freja made a drastic decision. She filed for divorce. Their son, Einar, was caught in the middle of this unraveling chaos. The perfect life Freja had worked so hard to present was now crumbling around her. And I couldn't help but feel that, finally, the truth was starting to surface. I observed Freja's life unraveling before my eyes. Her once privileged world was crumbling, and the final blow came when her son, Einar, was placed in a care facility due to her unstable situation. It was a stark contrast to the life she had once flaunted so proudly. The family dynamics were shifting fast. My mother, who had long leaned towards Freja, finally came to me with a heartfelt apology. For the first time, she admitted her favoritism had been a mistake and that it had caused me immense pain. "I'm sorry for everything, Astrid," she said, her voice heavy with regret. "We should have treated you better, and now I see the hurt we've caused." Her words were sincere, and I appreciated them, but the damage done over the years couldn't be easily undone. While her apology was a step toward healing, the scars remained, and I chose to keep a cordial but distant relationship with her. My focus now was on what truly mattered, my own family, their happiness, and our well-being. In the midst of these revelations, Folky and I decided it was time for a break from all the chaos. We planned a joyful outing to an amusement park, giving Emily a chance to have some fun, and giving us a chance to reconnect as a family. It was a beautiful reminder of the simple joys in life, the love we shared, the laughter, and the bond between us. The trip was exactly what we needed. It allowed us to step away from the drama, refocus, and reminded me how lucky I was to have such a supportive family. That day, as we enjoyed the rides and the carefree atmosphere, I had a realization. The past had its shadows, but the future held the promise of light. Freja's fall from grace and my family's apologies had brought a sense of closure to me. Though the journey wasn't entirely over, I felt ready to embrace the present and look forward to a brighter future. In the weeks after our family outing, a deep calm settled over me. The turmoil that had once dominated my life was finally starting to fade. As I looked around at Folky and Emily, I realized how much we had grown through the challenges we faced. Freja's downfall was difficult to watch, but it served as a reminder of the consequences of envy and manipulation. Her attempts to belittle my life had backfired, leading to her own ruin. The divorce, the loss of her son to a care facility, and her tarnished reputation were harsh, but inevitable consequences of the choices she had made. Algot, once a central figure in my life, now existed only as a memory. He, too, was struggling. After losing his job, he found it hard to get back on his feet. But I felt detached from his struggles. My focus had shifted entirely to my own family and the life we had worked so hard to build. Folky and I continued to nurture our relationship, finding strength and comfort in one another. Emily thrived in her creative endeavors, her YouTube channel still a source of joy and positivity in our lives. Watching her grow, express herself, and find happiness reminded me every day of what truly mattered. Then, one day, I received a letter from my mother. In it, she expressed her sorrow for how things had turned out and asked for my forgiveness. While her apology was heartfelt, I knew that healing our relationship would take time. I responded kindly, acknowledging her regret, but also emphasizing that we needed to focus on moving forward. The family dynamics had shifted permanently. The experiences of the past had taught me valuable lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of standing my ground. Healing from those wounds would require more than time. It required understanding and a willingness to let go of the resentment I had held for so long. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I saw that the pain of the past had made my own family's bond even stronger. Folky, Emily, and I were closer than ever, and the trials we had faced together had deepened our love and appreciation for one another. We found comfort in the small, everyday moments that brought us joy: Emily's drawings, Folky's quiet support, and the sense of peace that now filled our home. As the seasons changed and summer turned to fall, I began planning a new project. I wanted to take everything I had learned and turn it into something positive. I decided to start a community initiative aimed at helping families navigate conflicts and build stronger relationships. It was a way to use my experiences to support others who might be facing similar challenges. Looking back, I could see how far we had come since those turbulent days. The confrontation at my grandmother's funeral, the revelations that followed, and even the social media drama had all contributed to a profound transformation in me. Freja's story became a cautionary tale, but it was also a testament to the strength I had developed over the years. I had learned to move forward with love and grace, and that had made all the difference. As I closed this chapter of my life, I felt a deep sense of closure. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been enlightening. I was ready to embrace the future, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, my family and I would face them together. With Folky by my side, Emily's laughter filling our days, and my community project taking shape, I knew that the future was ours to build. The strength of our family's bond, forged through love and resilience, would guide us no matter what obstacles came our way.